So I don't know if anybody read the title before they jumped on, but your present creates your past and your future creates your present. I'm going to say that again just because it's usually said much different. Your present creates your past and your future creates your present. And again, you guys are more than welcome to unmute yourself at any time and have any input because I'd love to hear it. So really, this is what we're going to discuss is how, like my presentation over here. So if you see me look to the right, it's just because I have a bigger screen over here. But how do we get more from our relationships? How do we get different from our relationships? And how do we start to understand the past differently from the future moment? And then how do we jump to the future to take action in the present so we can develop the future we want? So I think, the standard view of the world and the way normal human beings think about life is it's all linear, right? We have a standard past to present. Like everything in the past, it's moved forward to the present, and that's the reason we're here. This is the reason the way we are. And we think that most of us go to, even if we want to go to the future, we're like, all right, here's what the future will look like. We're predicting it from past results and the past way we've seen ourselves to predict the future. So I want to, and as I go through a few more slides, I really want to discuss like how do we start to change our perspective, because perspective, when we change the way we see things, the way we see things change. And that's not just a cute saying. That is really how we develop a better outlook for ourselves and for people around us in our lives. It's how we give them the benefit of the doubt. It's how we can, instead of just thinking we'll grind our way through like what's happened in the past, we can transform our lives. And really what most of us look at is patterns, standard patterns, and that's what we predict will stay around for the future. Does anybody have any thoughts on this or questions or insight before I jump to the reverse of it? So everybody's seen the legendary movie Back to the Future. How do you go back to the future, right? It's just confusing in the name right there. They already created this. We're just copying what they said, and now we're putting in organizational psychology so we can, retake the movie and make it sound cool. So I want to talk to you guys about like looking at our past differently, because the past happened, yet the way we see the past isn't really the way it happened in the past. We only can look at the past from how we are presently. So the past can be vastly different than what we think it's going to be because we see it from our present moment. So if we can see it different from the present moment, that means our past can change. So I want you guys to think about something that an event, an experience that you've had with somebody, with your loved one or with yourself. It could be something you're struggling with. It could be something you're struggling with where you're like, oh, my loved one did this. Travis, I'm sure, brought up a few great examples that he could be thinking of right now. And I wanted you guys to ask yourself, like, what value does that experience add? Does it add value, right? Is it actually, do you learn from it and grow from it? Or like, is it your ally or your adversary? And if the past experience is an adversary opposed to an ally, then I want you guys to think about how do we start to see it different? Because if there's a different way to interpret it, like what you got from it, how you grew. And it's called psychological flexibility, right? That's what this term is called in therapy. So psychological flexibility is going to the past and starting to see the things that you benefit. Like, I don't know about you, Steve, and Travis, but for me, like, I am grateful for all the drugs and alcohol I did because of what I've become and who I've been able to help from it. So it's now, the story is now changed. And I want you guys to ask yourself if there's a belief that you have from your past about the person, about yourself. Like, again, is that hurting you or is it helping you? And if it's helping you, keep it, right? If the experience is great, keep it. Yet if the experience is an adversary, not an ally, or if the belief is hurting you, not helping you, then how do we take these things and make small shifts in them to create a butterfly or ripple effect? Travis, you put your camera on and your mic off, so I'm assuming you want to jump in here. So I will now be quiet and let you guys speak.
If that's okay,
Yeah, I
because
love it, man. Go for it. That's what I'm here.
that's a powerful question. So my past was my demon, and it's what caused me to use and numb out and escape because I couldn't. I don't want to cry. I couldn't process my past on my own, and so it was there, and you've got holes in your souls from it, and so you use or numb out, and you escape, and so prior to getting healthy and clean, my past was my nemesis. Now, my past is my warrior. Just like Chris just said, it's like because of my past and going through the process and doing the work with I Am Recovery and everyone there, I understand myself better. I'm able to let those things go. I was able to process it, come to grips with it, understand it, and it's made me a warrior. It's made me a warrior. And I'm stronger, happier, better, want to help more than I ever have. So it's a really, really fine line of past, present, future. But until you process your past, it's always going to haunt you. And then once you do, it will be your foundation for moving forward.
That's well said, Travis. And I want and thank you for the input, man. And I love I'm gonna steal the holes from your souls, or hole in your soul. I love that, and it made you a warrior. And I want to ask you guys in a different way, and if you I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think about it. But with your loved one, we've gone to war. This is a tough thing. Nobody's getting out of this life unscathed, but this addiction thing it's a battle. And as much as we want to be okay and only be the support, like we've had battle wounds too, even if you weren't the one doing the drugs. And I just want to know, like, do you guys have an example where you're like, man, this was a really bad experience I've had? And if you don't want to share it, that's okay. You don't have to share all the details. That's not what I'm saying. But do you have one of those that you can even write down on a piece of paper in front of you? Because it's always good to have a pen and paper to write notes, or your phone, that you can go like, man, this was the experience. And then, Chris, from this is how I'm going to see it differently. And I want to give you guys, like, I'll put a minute on my timer. I want to give you guys a minute to think and write. So why don't I go ahead and put a minute on my timer, and you guys can go ahead and do that. Okay. If you guys don't have anything you want to share, that's totally okay. I do want you guys to think about this over the next week until the next family meeting. Like, how do you use these present moments? Because, like, I know people talk about a lot about, like, be present, live presently, and that's great if your past doesn't have anything that's in the past that, like, haunts you or is hard to deal with. Yet most of us do, because we're human beings and we've gone through this human existence together. So I really want you guys to think about, like, what in the past has been these hard moments that we can start to see different, start to realize that they were just maybe a battle, like Travis said, that he went through, that he was and became a warrior from it. Because that's a vastly different story than this was just a hard, crappy thing that happened. Okay, present to the future. So again, I'll give you guys, like, how I think most of us are the standard view of it. And, like, what is happening now will continue to be the same in the future. Yet even when we logically know, like, nothing lasts forever, and we know that, like, we know life comes in seasons, in a sense. Relationships come in seasons. Jobs come in seasons, right? Everything that we have in life is here for a season, for a reason. Yet we tie this thing right now, the present moment, and we go like, man, like when good times are going well, like when the summer's out, everybody's like, this will last forever. The summer of life, not summer outside. And then when you know the winter of life is here, we go like, oh my goodness, this is so horrible. It's going to last forever. Yet nothing lasts forever. So how do we start to see it a different way? How do we start to understand like slow growth or no growth doesn't have to be that way? We can transform our life even quicker if we start to look at it differently. And then we carry a lot of the present feelings, actions, thoughts with us into our future. And then we wonder sometimes why our future doesn't look much different than it did in the past. And it's because we continue to carry the things with us. Does anybody relate to this in any way, or anything that comes up for them while we're discussing this?
For me, fear comes to my mind. Some of the things that I've watched and been witness to have been really difficult to do that. So I have a lot of fear. For example, when the phone rings, what's on the other end of that line going to be? Sometimes, it just created such a difficult world to be in, I think, for me. Just afraid.
That's really heavy, Connie, especially the phone thing. I mean, if every time you hear the phone ring and there's fear and being afraid of what's happening, I think that is a tremendous impact on your present moment and in the future. Has there been anything that you've like learned or been able to do different to help with that?
Just try to stay close to the situation, and then it just became even more difficult, I think. That's why I had to take a little bit of a step back recently. Just it became too heavy.
How did the step back help? Because I was really intrigued by that. You said, I think that was a lot of wisdom in that statement that most people, when I feel like when I'm working with a client and their family, a lot of families fight because they think like, oh, if I just stay really close, if I'm just over them, everything will work out. Yet tell me about the step back, if you don't mind, and how that's helped.
Gosh, it's just helped me to not be so in it 100% of the time and worry about it, and just take things as they come, but I miss that person a lot because we'd spend a lot of time together, and taking a step back has created distance that I think will take time to heal. But I had to do it. It was just too hard to see her on a respirator in the hospital, not knowing if she was going to live or not. Seeing her want to take her own life. Those are hard things to process and really heavy. So stepping back has just helped me to breathe a little bit. Still worry about her, but it just got too heavy.
All right. I appreciate you sharing that. I think I can't imagine what that feels like or what you've gone through. And one thing I heard you say is it's like it's uncomfortable to have that void with that loved one, like where you're farther away from that loved one.
Yeah.
And I think, do you want to speak on that more?
No, not a whole lot. It's hard to not feel that closeness,
It is, yeah.
but I just feel like that will heal too if we work at it. But that's where the past has so much weight bearing on the present.
Yeah.
It's just hard to I think what's hard a little bit for me is I see so much when things are so bad. And it's things that are hard for me to forget. And she can't remember any of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's hard to be in that spot.
I think you've used very big words like uncomfortable and hard. And I think on both sides of the coin, it's hard. It's hard to like step away and have faith that something's going to get better. And then like, if I put more on their shoulders, they're going to step up to do it. And it's hard to continue down the same path that we think will work someday, yet it still hasn't worked. And I think
Yeah.
it's this, I think like addiction is one of those challenges. It's just so hard to believe in a better day and a better way, and just not, and having no idea how to do it, right? Like, oh, step away. Well, that seems so scary and hard and fearful and uncomfortable. And then like staying with that person so much is just hard and scary and fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always encourage people, like if they've done something so many times it hasn't worked, let's do something different.
Yeah. Well, I have, when she's in recovery, that's when I have peace because I know she's safe.
Yeah.
But I don't want her to spend her life in recovery.
Yeah, no doubt.
I want her to be able to enjoy life and experience life on the outside. And she's had a lot of time inside over the years. So hoping for a good recovery.
Yeah. And I think this future can be different, you know, and this is where we go like future to the present.
Right.
This is where like exponential growth can come. But I think it takes, especially in these situations, it takes a village. You know, it's not just a it's not just a you, it's just not a her, or, you know, them or her. It is a team. It's the reason like having therapists, having coaches, having treatment centers, having multiple family members, having multiple friends is so important, because like we have to understand, if we project to the future, um, if we look at like what transformation or what 10x growth and connection looks like, what a different, like if we can let go and just, there's a magic question that sometimes therapists will use, and they'll say, if you went to bed tonight and you woke up tomorrow and everything was completely different, like how would you know? How would you show up? And how would the people around you know and see you different? And it's a profound question to get somebody's brain to jump forward. Because if we can start to go like, okay, what if we project, let's just say a year forward, we go like, man, life looks so much different, everything's so much different. Like, what does that look like? Because then we can start to go like, how did we get there? If we can go to the future and project what a great relationship looks like, what a healthy person looks like, how do we get there? How did we get there? Like, we already there. We can project our mind forward. Then we can reverse engineer it and look back and go like, what are the things we need to do now in the present moment? And that, like the second bullet point says, like, how do we outside of the box thinking? Like, how do we start to do that? How do we look at 80%? There's an 80-20 rule. This is the flipped and the reverse of it. But how do we get rid of 80% of what our relationship looks like right now? And that may seem scary again, but if there's a lot of turmoil and stress and just like grinding and trying to figure it out, we have a lot of ideas of and understandings of what didn't work, and how do we get rid of those, and how do we look at the 20% that actually is good and healthy that we can keep. Steve, do you have something you want to say?
No, I unmuted when you first started on this topic, because I think just kind of the whole thought of the future becoming our present is pretty broad and profound, and especially in this circumstance. And I think I'm curious, like how much as a supporter does my, I guess, outlook and vision of the future affect what my present and even tomorrow, like either my near present or even just a little bit more extended is going to look like. Like, am I going to have the faith in my person that they're going to make it through it? Because, like, frankly, I had to, like, argue with my person and tell them why going into treatment for the umpteenth time would maybe be good. Because now they also even have their future dictating their present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty big. I don't know if you have a censoring thing on there, but yeah, just a mind game there. It's interesting to think about on how we could change our present by our outlook on the future.
I love that, Steve. Thank you. I love that. I took a few things that you said. I love the mind game thing because it is a mind game. And right now, if we're still living a lot in the past, like we're carrying that to the present, and then we're carrying that to the future. And I want to say this. I think with all the times I've worked with family with the client, is what happens is a lot of times we are still projecting that past to that present person. And it's so important for us to at least, if we sat down with somebody and we recognize, like, hey, here's 3 things that I saw that you like improved on since yesterday. Because I do this in my journal, and I will suggest you guys all do this. Like, get a journal and write down 3 things that you think, like, okay, I'm working on these 3 things. And then recognize any growth you've had from the day before, not a week, a day before. Because there is this understanding that, and one of my favorite quotes is, my tailor's the most honest man I know. Every time he sees me, he takes a new measurement. And I don't know if anybody's heard that quote. It's my wife says I have 1,000 favorite quotes. So it's one of my favorite quotes, just so you know. So one of the 1,000. But I love that quote because what we do is we project an identity on somebody. And if we can go to the future and go, like, this person is not broken, so they're not fixed, but they're healed. Our relationship is healed, or healing, however you want to say it. How did we do that? Then we can realize what would that healed person look like? How do we start to project that on them and help them create that identity? And how do we start to see and recognize them for the things that they're growing in? Because again, what I've seen with families is a lot of like projection of the past and then a lot of worry of the past. And I get that's really hard to leave. Yet it's so powerful when you see somebody, and I think Travis really spoke this, like, man, this is where you're going. Man, this is where you're really doing well. Man, this is where you've done the work and you transform your life. It's so important in growth and actually in having exponential growth in life. And as you can see, it says exponential growth, that we stop looking at like the small things that got us here and the small things that grind us forward to get somewhere we're going to go. And how do we 10x our life? 10x it personally, 10x it in your health, 10x it in healing. Because if we can jump so far forward that our brain doesn't already have a way to interpret it, now we have to start thinking out of our box, and we have to start looking at, like, what do we get rid of? What did we get rid of in the past? How do we adjust it? How do we adjust it now? And it changes our actions in the present moment from the future experience that we're yet to have. And I think, to me, this has been so powerful in my growth. It's been so powerful in me helping other clients, because it's one of the major things we work on, these slides. And it's so powerful in just what I do in my own life. And if we can create a avatar, for lack of a better way of saying it, that looks a different way, that has that person we love in that healed state, what do they look like? And how do we reinforce that in the present moment? And then that helps them create a new identity and live into that identity. So I just want to leave you guys with this. Present your past in a new light. See your future to design your present. It's all about vision. It's all about seeing. And if we see with our mind. So how do we see with our mind? So present your past in a new light. That'll start to change your present moment. And then how do we go to the future and see it to design what we do in the present? Because it all starts by perceiving differently. I'm really grateful that you guys are all on here. I really appreciate your time and your just shares and your energy and your emotions. Please reach out to me if I can support you guys in any way. And if nothing else, I hope you guys join next week. Jared will provide some amazing life-changing information. So definitely tune in for that. He is, like I said, a marriage and family therapist. He's been doing this for, I think, 13 or some odd years. He definitely knows what he's talking about. And if you missed last week, all the ones we've done before are recorded, so you guys can go back to the past videos and watch as many as you want. There's also some coursework that Jared's put together that you can go on your little side toolbar. It'll say, I think it's courses, or you can look right there. And if you need help finding it, like message me and I'll get back to you guys. But there's great information on there as well that'll help you guys go through and do active learning instead of just sitting on a video watching. Both beneficial, just depends on how you learn best. So don't miss out on those opportunities because they're there for you guys.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, this is my first time on this side of the fence. I tried to explain to my loved one that I'm a virgin with all of this. Although I've been to rehab, I'm a virgin to that as well. So I'm also a virgin to being the supporter of this. And I have found myself dealing with a lot of anger lately. Actually, since the moment this happened, I've been dealing with a lot of anger. Just trying to, not that I necessarily take it personally, but just like a why. I thought we were closer than this. Just why, you know?
Yes, Steve. Thank you for sharing that, first of all. And thank you for sharing, what you've been through yourself. And I just want to make sure I heard you clearly. You said you felt like it was a lie. Is that correct? And that you felt closer?
Yeah, I thought we were closer to each other than to find out that she had been lying to me and was at home absolutely hammered,
Okay.
rather than reaching out for some help and support, which would have warmed my heart instead of made me feel betrayed.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's, and then I want, I will definitely have input if you're open to it, but I'd also like to just get other people's feelings because I'm sure other people have felt that way or gone through it and maybe done some healing with that. Can anybody relate to that or have any insight on that? Steve, are you okay with that?
Oh yeah. So hopefully as soon as you get to know me, like you will realize I am an open book.
Okay, cool. Me too.
I'll probably overshare most often. So
okay.
There you go.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any insights, feeling of the, same feelings that they want to share?
I think anger is an emotion that we all kind of share at some point. There's a lot of emotions that we tend to go through, and anger definitely is one of them. And it's hard to be positive sometimes or all the time when you have that anger, and you don't want to be angry. You just want to help heal. But through the recovery process, there's a lot of things that happen that create that anger feeling, for sure.
Do you feel like you were lied to at all, Connie, like from what you stand and your loved one?
Probably for the last 15 years, yeah.
Okay. Do you still feel that way, or do you feel like you've done a lot of healing with that?
I've healed a lot with it, but I actually had to take a step back a little bit the last few months because it was too much to deal with, really. For a while, just had to let it do some healing first,
I think I love the statement of taking a step back. I think it's one of the hardest things to do from the person with the addiction to the person that is the, you know, support. I think that's such a challenge, but I think it's such a powerful thing to do. Travis, go ahead.
What's up, Chris? Long time no talk, man.
How are you?
I'm good. Apologies for the casualness and being in the truck, but I wanted to be here tonight, and so I feel what what's being said here, and I'm on the other side of it. I'm the one that caused the pain and destruction and confusion, and I am an alumni of I Am Recovery and 5 years clean, and I know that when you're on the other side of it and having to deal with someone else's sickness, there's nothing that will ever make sense. And as a recovering addict, you know, I've heard the things. Why don't you just tell me? Why weren't you just honest? And those are legitimate questions and fair questions. But as someone with the sickness, with the disease, it's just, I mean, it's just not how it works. And it's not just me. It's everyone that deals with this, because there's a lot of shame and guilt and not wanting to open that can of worms of a discussion. And so you try to hide. You try to hide it. You hide it. You don't want to talk about it. And so what you guys are experiencing is a very normal situation. And I don't know if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense, because this disease doesn't make sense. But your situation isn't unique. Your spouse, your kid, whoever it is, they're not unique in this. It's part of the disease. And I went through it, and it cost me everything. And it's my fault. And all I can tell you is there's hope. There's hope for understanding, if you're open to that. So
Well
that's
said,
all,
Travis.
Chris.
Thanks for the input. I appreciate it, man. Good to see you.
Travis,
You
I
too,
really
bud.
appreciate what you have to say there. And I can recognize that and appreciate that. And I think what I struggle with is that we sit there as, you know, a close-knit couple and share very intimate and, you know, dark and important topics and conversations quite frequently. Then why couldn't we sit there and have a conversation about, you know, like what you're feeling before you start drinking, if that makes any sense? And so then what I want to know is, going forward, is how do I make myself more open and, I guess, approachable to, like, be that person and prevent this from happening. I guess some of it's that I'm a fixer.
I get that. Me too. I'm a fixer too. Even though I broke a lot of things, I'm a fixer.
I think
Chris,
we all want
Chris,
to be a fixer, right?
It's job security. If you break things, you fix it. Job security.
That's right. So, Chris, I don't know if you want me to answer that. I mean, you're well more versed than I am, but
No, I think he's speaking straight to you. Go ahead.
okay. So I'll tell you the answer to that, because I'll speak in my situation. In my situation, my now ex-wife, at the time, someone who I wanted to understand what I was dealing with and going through, they cannot get their heads around it. And I'll speak for her. She could not get her head around it. And therefore, there was nothing I said or did or any explanation that would help her have like an aha moment. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And so for me, I'd rather not talk about it. I'd rather just keep it to myself and deal with my own pain and suffering and the way that I dealt with it, and hide it from the world. And so you want more information, which I appreciate. And I don't know, not knowing you and her, I don't know how you respond to that information you want. But for me, whenever I gave more information or more details on me, my disease, what I was dealing with, it led to more confusion, more stress, more, from her, it doesn't make any sense, And so I would say, to sum it up, the best thing I can say is I was looking for a champion. I was looking for someone to say, okay, I don't get it, but I got you, and we'll get through this and we'll figure it out. And I don't get it, but I'm willing to learn about it. And I never got that. And so that's the biggest thing I would say, for two people in a relationship that don't understand each other or the disease. It's we are looking for someone to just hold our hand and help us get through it, because most of us don't want to be there anymore. And so it's about stepping up and being a cheerleader, and not like, I don't get you, you don't make sense, you're broken, that's stupid. So I don't know if that helps or not, but
I think
Thanks, Sean.
I was going to say, I think sometimes I feel like I've been 110 or 20% supportive through this whole process. And during bits of soberness, going overboard to try to really let my loved one know how important she is and how much we love her. And it just, I don't feel the reciprocation so much from it. But we keep trying and we keep supporting and we keep loving, because we feel like we want her to know how much we care about her. And we have a lot of confidence. We know she can get clean, but there's only so much in my role that I can do. I'm a mother, a parent of it. And I just feel like sometimes I just try. I just keep trying. I keep hoping.
Thanks, Connie. So first, I just want to if you guys, when you're not speaking, will you just mute yourself if you think there's any background noise, just so it's clear for everybody else when they're speaking. Thank you. Sarah or Randy, do you guys have any thoughts or insights that you want to share with the group?
I love all these groups where
Sarah, you're breaking up really bad. Can you hear us? You sound like an awesome robot. And we love that, but we can't hear you, unfortunately. So if you don't mind, when you do, maybe try now. You went green again from red on your little dot next to your name. So maybe try it again. Maybe you have better service now at this instant.
She's on mute.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're on mute. I don't know if you know that. If you're talking, good call, Connie. Okay, we'll wait for her thoughts, or we'll come back for her thoughts. Randy, do you have anything you want to input on this before I say anything?
No, I think I want to be here more just for the support. I know that the individual that we're supporting will lean on me in the worst case situations, I think, in a lot of those low times. So I don't know what the solution is. Just, I think that's why I'm here, to find out how we can better support the process for that individual.
I love that, Randy. I think those are powerful statements, and I appreciate you being here to support and find out. I don't know that I will say I don't know that there's any like particular answer that's just like, this is the one key answer. I'd love to tell you that it'd be much easier. It's just not how we function as in relationships and as human beings. So but we'll do our best to give you some tools that you can take and implement and improve the relationship with. Steve, I want to go back to what you were saying, man. And I think you brought up something that's so powerful, is like, how do I make myself more open and approachable? And I think at the end of the day, if you came from addiction, like I had family that supported me, and yet the people you want to look shiny to is your family, right? You don't want to, like, I didn't want to add stress to them. I didn't want to drag them down. Going back to Travis, like, I didn't want to add more worries to their life. And I had fear of like what they would judge me, how they would think about me. And most of us want to feel seen and heard, yet, in a loving way, our families do their best to help us with it. But also there is some judgment, and there is some like, hey, you should do this, stop doing that. And I'm not saying you're doing that, I'm just speaking on my perspective and why it was hard for me. Yet it was challenging because you just didn't know really what like was causing me to drink. And it wasn't like at some point my family knew, and they still just didn't know how to help. And it's really challenging for me to figure out how I could tell you that I need help. And if I can't figure out, how am I going to tell you how to help me, and I don't know if you can relate to any of that when you went through your addiction, or what you're going through now.
No, I can absolutely relate to it with going through my addiction. But I also, like, I guess where the anger comes from is that I've like developed, my core people that I can talk ugly to. I can be ugly, show ugly, talk ugly, and everything, just knowing that they have my best interest in mind. And I thought that that's the relationship that my person and I had. And so to find out from one of her friends that she had, relapsed and had been drinking, it was really hurtful to me. And then it was really hurtful to me of like, why wouldn't you have reached out to me? Why wouldn't you have shared what was going on in your head with you so that we could talk about it, so we could digest it, and hopefully would have ultimately prevented any of this?
Yeah, man, I can relate to that a lot. Like, I have a wife. She hasn't ever gone through addiction, but there's certainly times when she was pregnant, she brought up something to somebody else, and I went like, I thought we had that relationship, and I had to reflect on, how do I, like you said, what am I doing that's not open and approachable for her to feel comfortable enough to bring the good, the bad, the ugly to me. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know that I have an answer. I will ask you, if it's okay, like, why is the emotion that comes up for you? Or is there anything under the anger? Like, is the anger really that you're just sad that you weren't the person that she could come to? I'm assuming it's a she. It sounded like a she, so I'm making that assumption. Opposed to going to somebody else. Is that correct?
No, I mean, it's not like a jealousy type of anger.
No, yeah, I didn't mean it that way at all. Yeah.
Hey, why did you have to go talk to somebody else? Is that with how much I care about my person.
Yeah.
I care about her so much that whatever happened this time, fine. Okay, like, I can get like past it, but how can I be better on my side? Like, she's in treatment right now and receiving round care. I want to know how I, as the supporter, can be better and more open, make her feel more comfortable about telling me these things. Like, I guess maybe a lot of the anger might be, I don't know, maybe towards myself, that maybe I didn't do something right to make her feel, comfortable enough to approach me about that stuff.
I think that's a powerful statement. I was going to ask you if you're more angry at her or you, Because I think that's always a question to reflect on, you know.
I'm just angry in general because I miss her so much, you know.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I feel your pain. I think it's hard to like have a loved one go away. And I always think, like, I think you said something really profound, is like, how do I work on me? Right? Like, she's hopefully doing work on herself. And that's the reason she's not with you right now. And how do we do work on ourselves? And I think that's really the question is, in these meetings, we're never going to be able to fix the other person. And they're like, I don't really like the word fix because they're not broken. Right.
Right.
But
Right.
how do we be a vehicle for our own healing so they can be a vehicle for their healing? Because I think sometimes we get told we're broken. And I just don't believe that to be true in this world. I believe we're all here on a journey, and all of us are on our individual journey, and we are colliding into each other on those individual journeys, and we're trying to all figure it out together. And that's one of the most challenging and most beneficial things for our growth in life. Yet it's also extremely hard. So Steve, I really appreciate you opening up and being willing to open up with the group. I think that vulnerability always builds bonds and connection.
Well, thank you. When John called me about a support group, like, I couldn't be more thrilled.
Okay. I thought that was headed the other way, man.
No, so excited about it all. And I was so mad that last Thursday that I spaced it because I was sidetracked with volleyball and my kids. Like, I wish every single treatment facility out there did this, because the one I was in definitely did not. And I think it's amazing. It's an amazing tool for the people that love and care about these people to be able to have a network, to be able to dial in and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And maybe gain some insight. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. Does anybody have, and I don't want to go away from this topic, if anybody has anything they want to add, or if there's another, just something that somebody else wants to bring up or process, or something they're struggling with. Travis, you unmuted yourself. Go.
I was just going to tell Steve, the people you love the most are the ones you want to tell the least. And I would tell anybody that I needed help except for my wife. And it's weird and it sucks. And it's part embarrassment, part fear, because things are already tough because we're creating chaos, right? So we already have enough heated discussions, whatever you want to call them. And so you don't want to create any more. And so the one I love the most, I would tell the least. And that's just how it was. So
now, I appreciate you saying that, Travis, because in my mind, like, I'm so simple that, like, if I can poop in front of you, I can tell you, that I'm struggling and shit, So that's what I can't wrap my mind around.
yeah, and there's things that you'll probably never wrap your mind around, and at least that's my experiences. Like I said, it cost me everything. Cost me a 28-year marriage, and she still doesn't get it, and she still wants to be mad at me over it. And I've been clean a really long time, and I'm happy, and I've made reparations where I can with those who will accept it. But she just doesn't get it because she comes from a family with zero addictions, and so it's hard. It's a really fine line, and patience and acceptance is where it's at.
I get what you're saying too about her not coming from any sort of history of addiction, but having been that person in the seat of the addict, like, what is it that you'd have liked your ex-wife to changed or said differently, or made herself more approachable to you? And I understand, I totally get it, that, like, the people that are close to you are the last people you want to know when you're, like, digging in crap, right? But what could have been offered more?
That's a great question. It's one word for me: forgiveness. She wouldn't forgive me for the things I had done prior, and I was sick for a long, long time. So, like, there was a lot of chaos for a long time. And once I wanted help, I wanted the help. I interviewed 5 different centers before I checked myself into I Am Recovery. And there was zero forgiveness for the things prior, even though I admitted them, owned them, was 100% honest. I couldn't get any love or forgiveness. And that made me not want to share anything else. And so that's the one thing for me. So that's one thing for me.
I feel that, bro, and I'm sorry you felt that. I would like to
Thank you.
I'd like to think that I don't make my person feel that way. When I was on my way to her house, I was texting a dear friend of mine, asking him what to do. And the first thing he said was that you approach them with love and nothing but love, which is easy because I have so much love for her. I guess being in my profession, like when we have an incident, like, it's okay, that's cool, that happened, but how are we going to prevent it from happening again? So I think that's kind of how I'm programmed and what I think I can fix. And maybe it's not just that I'm going to be able to prevent anything. I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can for my person. And I guess maybe that's the anger that I feel is that I guess I must have screwed up somehow, or I don't know.
Well, I think anger is one feeling we have, but I think love is another feeling that I have a lot for my loved one. And sitting with her when she's in a really bad state, with her on my lap, rocking her like a little baby. I don't know how much more love you can give that person. But the problem is that when they come out of the stupor, they don't really remember all of that happened. And that's a lot of the pain that you have to live with and try to overcome and keep growing with them as they heal. Anyway, that's.
No, I really appreciate that, Connie, and I think we both understand. Like, even like my anger, it comes because I love her so much. I care about my person so much, and I want to be there. I don't care what time of the day or what's going on in my life, it'll get dropped. Like, I know that deep in my heart. And I guess I thought I had, made that more apparent, and I felt like my person understood that. But then I guess maybe the anger is that feeling violated. I don't know. I think it's a good thing that I'm angry about it all. It's because I care about her so much. But
Well said. And I think it's good that you're willing to explore it. Like, it's okay. Like, not knowing is okay. I know we, as humans, we want to know, but not knowing is also a healthy place to be. It does help for a lot of exploration, which is extremely important. And I will say, like, I think sometimes we want to own it. And I think there's importance, like, it may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to figure out, like, what you could do different. In the same sense, like, we can't take the blame for the other person either, meaning, like, you can't necessarily take the reason why she didn't come to you, because it's not all about you either. It's somewhat about her figuring out or why she didn't come to you either, right? There's stuff internally inside her that prevented her from doing that as well.
Right. And I get that. And I guess ultimately I have this misconception that I can be that person that can be that outlet for anything. It's going to, prevent, my person from feeling like they're even getting to that point that they're starting to feel so bad about themselves or so stressed about whatever. And I guess that's on me to learn and to acknowledge is that like, I can't, I don't know. I guess I can't force them to reach out and just do my best. I can just always do my best and then be there with open, loving arms whenever I can. And that's what I want.
I think that's well said, Steve. I think that's the truth of the matter. All right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys being open and just discussing this with us.